In this video, we're going to take one of the cars from Gran Turismo's latest update, the iconic Escort RS Cosworth, and use it to earn you guys some credits. But I'll admit, things didn't go quite as easily as I'd planned. And first off, let's buy the car. And there it is, the Escort RS Cosworth. This particular version, the 1992 one. And you will find it in the second-hand dealership, which frankly I think is a disgrace, but it's only 147,000 credits. And for that price, well, it would be rude not to. And once we've got the car, it's time to tune it. Now, I have bought quite a few items for this car, so rather than me just read out a boring list to you guys, just pause the video and have a look what I've got. I will mention that I did make changes to the suspension, the downforce and the engine top speed, so just make sure to pay attention to those. But also remember, tuning's personal, so if you've got a setup that you think works better for you, go for it. And once you've got all that done, I'm going to need you to head over to World Circuits, European section, the Circuit de la Sarthe, and we will be doing the World Touring Car 700. And just as we get underway, if you guys would consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons, it does help out the channel and it lets me know that you guys are appreciating the videos. Now, down to the race. First of all, traction control. Well, you don't need much, if any. This thing's 4-wheel drive and, to quote Tidge, it's got grip for days. But if you do get some wet weather, you may want to consider adding a little bit. Now, fuel mapping. For once, we're not changing it. You can leave it as it is on fuel map setting 1. Now, the car, the race. Firstly, don't be expecting to break any lap records in this thing, because you won't. But that was never the point of this build. The point was to earn some credits, but also to have the fun of driving such a nostalgic, iconic car. But also, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that this thing is slow, because it quite obviously isn't. Now, strategy for the race. Here, you actually have more than one option. You see, if you change the fuel mapping on this car down to say number 3, you can quite easily make it do a 1-stop, which is great. The only trouble with a 1-stop is though, the weather most of the time is going to screw you over. So we are going to do our usual 2-stop strategy, which allows us, weather permitting, to do things and change things if we need to. And at this point we're going to jump ahead towards the end of lap 2, and this is where I can't stress enough to you guys the importance of keeping an eye on your weather radar, because as you can see from mine, we're going to get some rain, and by those yellows and greens we're going to get some heavy rain. And so, luckily, as it fits in with our planned stop, we are going to be putting on wet weather tyres. So, when it's time for you to make your first pit stop, obviously come into the pits, make sure you pick the right tyres for your weather conditions, and then you're going to want to fill up with fuel all the way to the max. Once that's done, it's time to get back out onto the track. And when we did eventually get back out onto the track, it was raining. Boy, was it raining. The first thing you're going to want to do when you come out of the pits is add a few clicks of traction control, because even the mighty Cosworth and its 4-wheel drive is going to struggle in really heavy rain conditions. Thankfully though, not as much as the AI will. And if you did happen to lose a few places in the pit stops, I wouldn't worry about it, because in the wet, the mighty Cosworth is going to, well, quite frankly, spank the opposition, as if they weren't even there. And once you are back in the lead, it's time to put your foot down. Drive carefully of course, but put your foot down, and you will just disappear off into the distance. And that's a good time for us to jump to the end of lap 4, where we're going to make our second pit stop. And as you can see, at this point in my race, it stopped raining. The sun is out and the track is starting to dry off a little bit, and as we're now coming in to make our second pit stop, it's a good time to swap onto the slick tyres. So we pull into the pits, we change the tyres, in our case to slicks, for you, whatever your race dictates. We top up with fuel up to the max, and then it's back out onto the track for the final bit of the race. However, it was at this point that I realised, despite the fact the track was drying, it wasn't actually dry enough for slicks, and I found that out the hard way. However, unfortunately for me, I didn't find that out just once. Hell, I didn't even find that out just twice. No, I had to go and prove it 3 times. Whoever said the older you are, the wiser you get? I've got news for you. Nope, we don't. Now, due to me driving like a muppet and crashing 3 times, I'd picked up engine damage, front and rear bumper damage, wheel damage, and countless times of dirty tyres. And that meant that the guy who was behind was now the guy in front. Now, at lap 5 at Le Mans, I'm not used to being in second place, and unfortunately he was obviously on some kind of intermediates or wets, and I was on the slicks, and it felt like I was trying to drive on ice. This was worrying. At this point, I was just expecting the Aston Martin to disappear off into the distance, and honestly, there would have been nothing I could have done about it. However, he comes into the pits, and I didn't expect that. So now, I've got an opportunity. I'm coming into the pits too, and I'm going to put on a set of wet weather tyres. So, it was into the pits for a quick change of tyres from slicks back onto the wets, just a little splash of fuel, and then back out onto the track. And now I had just one thing in mind: to catch at Aston Martin. And just under half a lap later, I managed to get back into first place. Now all I had to do was keep it. And the trouble is, that Aston Martin, well, that is not a slow car. And now, as we move into the final stages of the lap, the Aston Martin, due to the fact that I've run wide, losing time and getting dirty tyres, has managed to catch up. In fact, not only does the Aston catch up, but he manages to take back the lead. I have no choice now. I just have to floor it and go for it. And with a little bit of rubbing paint, I managed to get back in front. The only trouble is, now I've completely burnt out the wet weather tyres, and I've got no grip again. And with just a few corners of the race left to go, I am desperately trying to keep the Aston Martin behind me. Not only that, but I'm trying not to spin out and end up in a meeting with Barrier. All I have to do now is focus and keep it on the track. And as we come round the final corner and the short run up to the checkered flag, it's me. Yes, get in there. But that was not as easy as I would have liked. And you can see, we won by just 1/10 of a second. But hey, winning's winning. And we still get the 825,000 credits, which was what it was all about. Now, if you think that this looked a little bit too difficult or a little bit too stressful, well, don't worry about it. I did this race 2 times afterwards, using exactly the same car, the same build, the same setup, and it absolutely spanked it. Both times we were more than a minute ahead of the opposition when we finished. Now all you've got is 2 things left to do. Firstly, give it a go. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Secondly, hit those like and subscribe buttons. Go on, you know you want to. And I will see you guys in the next video. For more great videos like this one, follow this link. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.